What if the most terrifying book in the Bible wasn't a prediction of the future, but a dangerous piece of political satire propaganda? We've been taught to fear the beast, but for early Christians, this wasn't prophecy. It was a coded attack on the most powerful man alive. It's time to reveal the secret satire hiding behind the fire and brimstone. I've been called the child of the evil one in my comment sections, about 666 times. Or should I say, Nero Caesar times? Before I explain what that means, do me a big favor and click the subscribe button and the bell to stay connected to this beast of a channel as we dissect, expose, and debunk Bible myths and reveal the facts and truths you desperately need to reverse the curse of biblical Christianity. Before we dig into the Gematria of 666, we need to figure out what John was really writing about that is considered high-end prophecy from the book of Revelation. Many Christians believe John was warning our generation today, here in 2026. However, every generation for 2,000 years thought the same thing. They saw the same things we see today: earthquakes, floods, astrological anomalies, and political tyranny. The word apocalyptic is a Greek word, apokalypsis. In first century Koine Greek, it translated to an unveiling, an uncovering, or pulling back the curtain, not the destruction of the world, as many Christians believe. The opening line reads, Apocalypsis Iesus Christou, meaning the unveiling of Jesus Christ. Early scribes copying the scroll simply labeled the manuscript by its famous opening words, the Apocalypse of John. When translated into Latin, that word was translated as revelatio, and later English, unveiling, became revelation. Notice it's singular, revelation, not revelations. Many scholars believe this book was probably written around 95 to 96 AD, near the end of Emperor Domitian's reign, who was notorious for aggressively promoting the imperial cult, demanding he be referred to as Lord and God. Early church leaders like Irenaeus in 180 AD was the first to make this determination. Others believe it was written around the death of Nero and the destruction of the temple in 68 to 69 AD. If written under Domitian, John is using the trauma of Nero's early reign, the original beast, as a historical archetype to warn his audience about the rising tyrant sitting on the throne right then and there. While the author refers to himself as John, modern textual scholars believe that it's one of two different Johns. John of Patmos, a Jewish Christian prophet living in Asia Minor who knew the Hebrew scriptures inside and out, or John the Evangelist, the author of the Gospel of John. Early church figures like Dionysius of Alexandria in 247 AD pointed out that the Greek used in the Gospel of John is smooth, elegant, and refined, whereas the Greek in Revelation is rough, grammatically eccentric, and heavily influenced by Hebrew syntax. They don't read like the same author's voice at all. John's Greek is notoriously weird. It's written by someone whose first language was almost certainly Aramaic or Hebrew. But here's the real interesting part. It wasn't a retelling of a psychic futuristic foretelling. It was a direct and secret encrypted message for the people of his time. Let's say you're an insider, first century Jewish Christian. You would recognize John's coded message and quickly be able to decipher the symbolism that seems to stump many Christians reading it today. You wouldn't need hundreds of Bible scholars to tell you what was being said. The reader was meant to understand the Jewish Gematria, which was connected to their language, as well as the ancient Hebrew visuals John describes. Like symbols used in a good spy novel, they spoke and wrote in symbology and numbers, so no one would be able to decipher them. Speaking of spy novels, the political and religious environment of John's time was under a heavy totalitarian regime where state surveillance and informants were the norm. So writing encoded messages was essential for survival. And John took advantage of his knowledge of symbols and gematria to subvert the government and then wrapped it in cosmic allegory using imagery from Daniel, Ezekiel, and Isaiah, texts the Jews would clearly understand. If John had written, Imperator Domitian is a bloodthirsty lunatic and Rome is a parasitic plague that will crumble, he would have been flayed alive before the ink dried. By writing in code, a Roman guard reading the letter would assume John was losing his mind. Exactly what John needed them to believe. As a homeschool mom, I taught my son that in order to understand history, you could never view it from a modern eye. In order to study history accurately, you need to see it in its absolute periodic context and mindset of the people of that time. And the Bible is no different. We read it through the lens of religion and biblical scholars who think they know better than those who wrote it. We as readers never dig deep enough to understand the full and real context of the writings. We're told they were inspired by God and not to question that authority, so we don't. The Bible is a collection of historical accounts, not godly inspiration. Whereas Paul's entire writings are based on his own ideology that we've been cursed by. But even Paul's writings were meant to be understood by the people of his time reading it. He was never writing for the masses for people in the future. He was establishing a church, setting rules and standards for his cult. Followers. John's letter was written during a period of time where the Roman leaders were gods and the entire world was meant to worship them as such. Temples to worship Caesar and living emperors were popping up all over Asia Minor, much like Trump is doing today here in America. Yet Christians fully back this deity. What are you doing? I digress, but it's a digression worth mentioning because when I was a devout Christian, I tried to get other Christians to see this today. I lost friends of 30 years over this statement on Trump. Christian friends. They refused to see the similarities in Trump compared to how John had described the government of his time. John took the propaganda of Rome, the Roman eagle, the Pax Romana, and the divine ruler, and flipped it on its head. The Roman dragon isn't a glorious conqueror, it's a chaotic brute. The divine emperor isn't a savior, he's a grotesque beast mocking God. John parodied the imperial rituals to show his audience how cheap and adulterous they actually were, much like Trump supporters today. When early Christians declared Jesus is Lord, they were explicitly claiming Caesar was not. The beast wasn't a mythical creature destined to put microchips under our skin. He was a very real tyrant whose body was barely cold. The mark of the beast on the hand or forehead was a direct parody of the imperial seal required for commercial trade, a metaphor for selling out your moral integrity to participate in the empire's oppressive economy. His name was 666. Well, it was originally 616. During my intense Bible study through the Apocrypha last year, I began learning Gematria. In Hebrew numerology, letters are numbers. Every letter of the alphabet has an assigned numerical value. The first 10 letters are 1 through 10, the next are 20 through 90, then 100 through 400, or 800 in Greek. Every word had a mathematical sum. Gematria is believed to hold dark, restricted mysticism used for ancient graffiti, wordplay, and covert messaging. And no shit, archaeological excavations at Pompeii uncovered a piece of ancient Roman wall graffiti that reads, "I love her whose number is 545. The lover encrypted his girlfriend's name using Gematria, so passerbyers wouldn't know who he was talking about, but she would instantly know it was her. This was discussed in a paper by Lutheran scholar Craig Koester called The Number of the Beast in Revelation 13 in Light of Pyri, Graffiti, and Inscriptions. In Revelation 13:18, John writes,
This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666.
John was clearly telling his readers, you need to understand Gematria, and if you knew that, you would know the man. So, who was the man? John was writing his letter in Greek, but he was Jewish. His primary language was Hebrew or Aramaic. The trick to solving the cipher is that John takes a Latin title, translates it into Hebrew letters, and writes to a Greek-speaking audience. Pretty cool Intel spy tools. The official title for the Roman Emperor Nero was Nero Caesar. In Greek, it was written as Neron Kaiser. When you spell Neron Kaiser using Hebrew consonants NRWNQSR, the math looks like this. N equals 50, R equals 200, OW equals 6, N equals 50 again, Q/K equals 100, S is 60, and R again is 200. 50 plus 200 plus 6 plus 50 plus 100 plus 60 plus 200 equals 666. It was Nero Caesar, the emperor who brutally executed Christians, blamed them for burning Rome, and instituted terror across the empire. It was never about a future person, despite the numerous attempts to make us believe so. Generations have wasted time and energy trying to decipher who 666 would or could be. And today we see everyone doing the same thing. Is it Trump? Well, he fits the bill perfectly. So does that mean John was writing prophecy? Not at all. It simply means history repeats itself. And today we are living under our version of Nero, disguised as a chosen leader by God. Hitler was Nero, Stalin, Henry VIII, and even popes throughout the century. According to Grecopedia, in 1895, archaeologists at Oxyrhynchus, Egypt, unearthed an ancient dump filled with papyrus fragments. Among them was Papyrus 115, dated to the late 3rd or early 4th century, one of the oldest surviving physical manuscripts of the Book of Revelation in existence. The Papyrus 115 and Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus reveals that the number of the beast is written as 616. If you drop the final N from the Hebrew translation to mirror the Latin spelling, Nero Caesar instead of Neron Caesar, the value drops from 666 to 616. It is the exact same man either way. Beyond the Gematria math, John was using the number 6 as a symbolic insult against the imperial pride. The number 7 in Jewish tradition represented perfection, divine completeness, and sacred rest. 7 days of creation, 7 feasts, 7 spirits of God. The number 6 is the number of humanity, created on the 6th day. It represents human effort falling short of the divine. 666 is an unholy repetition. It signifies ultimate imperfection, human pride, boasting itself as divine, but constantly falling short to reach 7. It was a cosmic mockery of the emperor's pride. No matter how many temples he built to himself, he was just a flawed mortal man, a glorified 6 trying to act like a 7. Modern doom mongers present 666 as a terrifying supernatural mystery, when in reality, it was an ancient, brilliant piece of mathematical satire designed to expose a tyrant. John's letter functioned as ancient satire, weaponizing religious imagery to dismantle the cult of the Roman Empire. It was a spiritual guide or manual for rebellious freethinkers and revolutionary nonconformists. By telling early Christians that the Roman Empire was a demonic parasitic beast powered by blood and plunder, he was telling them, do not integrate, do not bow, do not sell your ethics for a seat at the imperial table. A message I find most relevant today. Revelation reveals its lasting legacy. It is one of history's greatest underground manifestos against total violence and state idolatry. Absolute power always wraps itself in the language of peace, divine right, and national pride. Revelation tore off that polished mask to expose the corruption underneath. When a totalitarian regime makes direct dissent punishable by death, satire, allegorical art, and coded messaging become the ultimate weapons. John weaponized cosmic poetry to remind a tiny, crushed minority that even the most terrifying empire on earth is temporary. From secret resistance songs sung by enslaved people in the American South to underground literature under Soviet rule, oppressed communities throughout history have instinctively used coded language like John's to survive and resist. Revelation was the ancient prototype for that exact survival strategy. The true danger of modern end times doctrine isn't just that it gets history wrong, it steals your power in the present. John's letter was never meant to be a terrifying fortune-telling device designed to make you fear tomorrow. It was a fierce, brilliantly hidden survival guide for people trying to stay human under the thumb of a tyrant yesterday. When we stop waiting for a distant, bloody end of the world, we are finally free to see the text for what it actually is, an ancient blueprint for moral courage. It's a reminder that every age has its beasts, its idolatrous systems, and its corrupt empires. And the answer has never been to hide in fear. The answer is to stand firm, refuse the mark of compliance, and speak truth to power. Unfortunately, Jesus also reminded us that even the elect will be deceived. And there has never been a time more truer to those words, as so many Christians continue to support not just Trump's fascist regime and control, but Israel's absolute power over our country. Instead of reading John's letter as something to look forward to, maybe Christians would be wise to understand it for what it is: instructions to rebel against tyranny. Okay, let's see if I can get 666 subscribers. That's a far stretch from the tiny amount of subscribers I have right now. But you can help me reach that number by subscribing today. I really do appreciate you watching and helping me get my message out to the masses so they too can be free from the religious curse of biblical Christianity. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.